For millennia it has kept its vigil, a silent sentinel, half beast, half human, hewn from a single colossal block of native limestone. Its gaze is fixed upon the eastern horizon, an eternal witness to the rise and fall of empires. But beneath that weathered visage, a secret has remained dormant, locked within the very stone of its skull. It is a secret that defies our understanding of the ancient world, a secret that modern science has only now, tentatively, begun to unveil. The story begins not with a whisper, but with a shockwave of data that rippled through the archaeological community. A new generation of explorers, armed not with picks and shovels, but with instruments of profound sensitivity, turned their attention to the monument. They deployed thermal imaging, capable of detecting minute temperature variations that betray hidden voids. They unleashed ground-penetrating radar, sending waves of energy deep into the rock. And most remarkably, they employed muon tomography, the same ghostly particle tracking technology that pierced the secrets of the Great Pyramid, to create a blueprint of the Sphinx's innermost structure. As the data coalesced, an impossibility took shape. There, near the crown of the Sphinx's head, where solid limestone was the only logical reality, an anomaly appeared. A void. A space that did not belong. The thermal scans glowed with a telltale coolness, the signature of an empty chamber. The radar returns painted the outline of a deliberate, almost geometric shape, not a random fissure of natural erosion, but something with intention. For decades, whispers of hidden chambers beneath the Sphinx's pores have fueled speculation. But the head was considered settled territory. Its proportions, curiously small compared to the leonine body, suggested it was a later recarving, perhaps of an original, much older head. The assumption was that it was solid, a finished piece. The discovery of an internal cavity shattered this long-held consensus. This was not a chamber accessed from below. It was a sealed pocket, an enigma entombed within the monument's very mind. With no visible entrance, no mention in any known hieroglyphic text, and a precision that seems to mock the tools of its supposed era, the void forces a profound re-evaluation. It compels us to ask a question that echoes down from the dawn of civilization. What was this monument truly built to protect? What knowledge, what object, what truth was deemed so important that it had to be sealed away inside the mind of a god? The answer may lie not in the sky, but buried in the earth beneath it. In 2024, a geological survey of the Sphinx enclosure unearthed a startling clue. Analysis of sediment layers revealed patterns of intense water erosion, not from the Nile's floods, but from torrential rainfall. This evidence points to a climate that existed on the Giza plateau thousands of years before the pharaohs we know, pushing the monument's origin deep into a forgotten epoch. The great stone beast, then, is more than a relic. It is a time capsule, guarding not one secret, but two. One is locked within its head, a deliberate void waiting for a key we have yet to forge. The other is written on its flanks, a story of water and time that dismantles our comfortable timelines. It reminds us that history is not a finished book, but a landscape of buried cities and lost knowledge, where the greatest monuments may yet hold the greatest mysteries, waiting for a moment when we are finally ready to listen. On the Giza plateau, the wind and sand are the sculptors of eternity. Yet etched into the limestone bedrock surrounding the Great Sphinx is a story the desert cannot tell. The vertical fissures, the deep runnels carved into the enclosure's walls, speak not of sand, but of water. They are the scars of torrential rainfall, the signature of a climate that vanished from Egypt thousands of years before the first pharaohs were ever entombed. This single, stark geological fact suggests an almost heretical possibility, that the core structure, this silent sentinel, may predate the entire dynastic age of Egypt. It hints that the Sphinx sits atop layers of a history so ancient it has been utterly forgotten. If this monument is a relic from a forgotten, wetter world, then a peculiar anomaly deep within its head becomes infinitely more compelling. Far from a simple chamber, scans have revealed a strange, recessed cavity, a deliberate void within the colossal skull. It is a space shaped with purpose, but for what? Mainstream scholarship offers rational explanations, a ceremonial niche for offerings now lost to time, a clever structural counterbalance to stabilize the immense weight of the head, perhaps even a hidden anchoring point for a crown or headdress, stripped away by millennia of exposure. But other, more speculative whispers persist in the margins of history. They speak of a sealed deposit, an intellectual time capsule intentionally placed for a future age to discover when it was ready for the knowledge within. For decades, these were merely theories. Then, technology offered a new and unnerving clue. During a series of thermal scans, a faint signature materialized on the screen, an echo from within the stone. It revealed a pocket of material with a density different from the surrounding limestone. It was not metal. It was not wood. It was something else entirely. An unknown substance, a ghost in the geological machine. The data was incomplete, the reading frustratingly faint, yet it was enough to send a ripple of quiet astonishment through the research team. Whatever sits inside that recessed pocket is not empty space. It may be an object. The temptation to know, to see, is immense. Yet to reach it would require drilling directly into the head of the world's most iconic statue. It is an act of archaeological sacrilege, a violation that Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities has, for obvious and justifiable reasons, forbidden. The world's greatest monument will not be lobotomized in the name of curiosity. And so, the mystery remains, a tantalizing mirage shimmering in the heat of the data, yet physically untouchable. But the riddle of the Sphinx does not reside in its head alone. In the year 2023, a new generation of ground-penetrating radar and LIDAR peeled back the layers of sand and time. The results revived an ancient rumor, one first recorded by Greek historians, the legend of a hidden archive, a subterranean library containing the accumulated knowledge from a lost civilization that flourished before the Nile gave birth to Egypt. Beneath the paws of the great beast, a vast and ordered grid of unexplored cavities was revealed, stretching toward the Khafra Valley Temple. Some appear to be natural karst formations. Others, with their clean lines and right angles, do not. Most experts dismiss the idea of a hall of records as romantic fantasy. But the anomalous data from within the Sphinx's head, it doesn't reject anything. It only deepens the fundamental questions. If there is something sealed within that stone, who put it there, and why? Until technology evolves to a point where we can see through stone as clearly as glass, one thing remains certain. The ancient builders left something behind. It is still there, still waiting, still watching us through the limestone eyes of a monument we are only beginning to understand. The discovery proved that this singular, iconic guardian still held profound secrets. But what if the greatest secret was not what lay inside the Sphinx, but what lay beside it? What if the Sphinx we know was never alone? The same LIDAR scans that mapped the subterranean world also captured the surface with unprecedented precision. And in that digital reconstruction, hidden beneath the sands for over 4,500 years, a second silhouette began to emerge. Faint, eroded, but unmistakable. The data revealed the existence of a twin, a second Sphinx, buried by the dunes of history, an entire guardian of the Giza plateau, forgotten by the world. We are forced to ask not just who built the Sphinx, but who built the Sphinxes? The Giza plateau is not the site of one enigma, but two, and the story we thought we knew is merely the beginning. The desert, it seems, is not yet finished telling its secrets. For millennia, it has kept its vigil, a solitary guardian hewn from the living rock of the Giza plateau. The Great Sphinx of Egypt, part lion, part king, a singular enigma staring into the eastern horizon. For centuries of study, through ages of wonder, it was believed to be unique, a monument without peer, a declaration of power so immense it needed no companion. The story of Giza was the story of one Sphinx, but the desert, an ocean of sand and time, is patient with its secrets. Modern science has granted us new eyes, the ability to perceive the ghosts of structures long swallowed by the Earth. In the year 2024, an international team of archaeologists deployed one of our most potent tools of sight, light detection and ranging, or LIDAR. Millions of laser pulses were fired into the ground, mapping the subterranean world in breathtaking detail. They were not expecting to rewrite the first chapter of Egyptology. Just south of the hallowed Sphinx enclosure, the data began to coalesce. An anomaly appeared. At first, it was dismissed. The desert is a master of illusion, its undulating dunes and buried rock formations capable of deceiving even the most sophisticated instruments. But as the team refined their scans, expanding the survey grid, the anomaly refused to vanish. Instead, it sharpened into focus. Beneath nearly 30 feet of sand, a specter emerged from the digital noise. The shape was too precise, the form too deliberate to be a trick of nature. The scanners revealed a symmetrical structure, its dimensions an eerie echo of the colossal statue it neighbored. The world's most famous monument, it seemed, was not alone. The evidence became undeniable. The digital reconstruction painted a haunting image of defined stone outlines and a massive rectangular base carved directly from the bedrock, a twin to the known Sphinx's own foundation. The scans even detected deep, vertical striations in the stone, cuts that resembled the porous, weathered fissures of its famous counterpart. The data depicted a monument of staggering scale, oriented with breathtaking precision toward the rising sun. If this buried form was what the instruments claimed, it was not merely another statue. It was the other half of a story we never knew was being told. This discovery sends a seismic shock through our understanding of the Old Kingdom. For generations, scholars have held that the Great Sphinx represents the divine authority of the pharaoh Khafra, a singular guardian embodying the power of the sun god Ra. It was the ultimate symbol of a pharaoh's fusion with the divine. But the presence of a second Sphinx shatters this simple, elegant theory. It suggests a forgotten duality, a sacred pairing designed to express a far more complex cosmic idea: balance, unity, and the celestial order that governed all life and death in the Egyptian mind. Suddenly, cryptic clues scattered throughout Egyptian history ignite with new meaning. On the towering walls of the Temple of Edfu, sacred inscriptions speak of the Aka, the twin lions of the horizon, fearsome guardians who watched over the eastern and western gates of the underworld, the very points where the sun was born and died each day. Earlier dynastic seals and fragmented reliefs recovered from the ancient capital of Memphis depict two sphinxes, often facing in opposite directions, flanking the solar disk. For decades, these images were interpreted as purely mythic art, symbolic representations of a cosmic concept. Now, the LIDAR scans force a radical re-evaluation. They suggest these ancient depictions may not have been myth at all, but literal blueprints of a sacred architecture at the very heart of the kingdom. As researchers scrutinized the digital model of the buried twin, they uncovered an even more profound layer of the enigma. The second formation was not perfectly aligned with Khafre's Sphinx. It was offset by a mere 6 degrees to the east. In the world of monumental construction, this would be a glaring error. But in the mind of an ancient Egyptian priest-astronomer, it may have been an act of deliberate genius. Astroarchaeologists calculated the celestial alignments for the era. Around 2500 BCE, the very period the Giza monuments were raised, that 6-degree deviation would have matched the rising of the brightest star in the night sky, Sirius, the celestial embodiment of the goddess Isis. The implications were staggering. If one sphinx, facing the dawn, was a monument to Ra, the great father and sun god, could its hidden twin have been raised in honor of Isis, the divine mother, the goddess of rebirth, magic, and balance? A monument to the sun, and a monument to the star that heralded the life-giving flood of the Nile. The sands of Giza have concealed more than a statue. They have guarded a concept, a vision of the cosmos built not on a single deity, but on a sacred, powerful pair. The discovery does not provide an answer so much as it deepens the question, reminding us that what we see on the surface of history is often just one half of a far grander design, its counterpart waiting silently in the dark for the right moment to be revealed. The archetype of the dual guardian echoes through the ruins of antiquity. From the twin lionesses guarding the gates of Mycenae to the colossal Lamassu that once flanked the thresholds of Mesopotamian palaces, ancient civilizations sought to manifest cosmic balance through monumental symmetry. They were sentinels of a fragile equilibrium, a yin and yang carved from living rock. But on the Giza plateau, a profound asymmetry has long puzzled scholars. One great sphinx, a solitary chimeric god, gazes toward the eastern horizon. The question has always lingered, whispered in the halls of academia and across the windswept desert. Why is it alone? Could Egypt's most iconic enigma be merely one half of a story, a dialogue in stone left unfinished? To test this audacious theory, a tentative probe was sanctioned, focused on a location where subsurface resonance scans had revealed a profound anomaly. The Giza sands, a dense, suffocating blanket compacted by millennia of desert winds and the rare, violent floods of the Nile, resisted the intrusion. For days, the work was arduous, yielding nothing but sand and time. But then, as the diggers descended deeper into the strata of history, fragments began to emerge. They were weathered limestone blocks, yet they bore the unmistakable scars of human intention. chisel marks identical in style and dimension to those found within the Great Sphinx's own enclosure wall. Soon after, a larger section was carefully uncovered. It was a smooth, curved surface, a piece of what appeared to be a sculpted paw, its colossal form abraded by ages of subterranean pressure, yet its divine purpose unmistakable. A current of electric excitement coursed through the small team. Dr. Nebel El-Fouli, a veteran archaeologist from Cairo University, would later describe the moment. It was as if the desert itself was finally exhaling after holding its breath for thousands of years, he recalled. We had always wondered, from a theological and architectural standpoint, why consecrate this sacred necropolis with a solitary guardian? It defied the Egyptian mind. Now, perhaps, we were beginning to understand. But with revelation comes immense peril. The bedrock surrounding the plateau is a treacherous honeycomb of limestone, fragile and vulnerable to the vibrations of modern life. The site lies perilously close to a major tourist thoroughfare, and a full-scale excavation could risk a catastrophic collapse, erasing the very history it seeks to uncover. The Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities, custodians of this fragile legacy, intervened. For now, only non-invasive surveys are authorized. The hidden Sphinx, if it truly exists, was once again sealed within its tomb of sand, its secrets held intact. Yet where the shovel must stop, technology ventures forth, peeling back the layers of the Earth without moving a single grain. Thermal imaging from orbital satellites has revealed anomalous heat signatures in the precise location of the find. Pockets of cooler air trapped in voids beneath the surface, a telltale sign of hidden network of what appear to be tunnels or ceremonial corridors, stretching inexorably toward the existing Sphinx temple. If these passages are connected, they could represent a vast subterranean complex, a ceremonial route that once linked two mighty monuments, now drowned beneath an ocean of time. The search then turned from the digital to the archival, to the dusty journals of forgotten explorers. In the year 1817, the British diplomat and adventurer Captain Henry Salt documented his travels across the plateau. In his notes, he wrote of a vast, unusual mound situated to the south of the Sphinx, one that bore a curious resemblance to the haunches of a lion. At the time, his observation was dismissed as fanciful, the imaginative projection of a romantic mind. But his sketch, rediscovered in a London archive, tells a different story. It depicts a distinct leonine mound, precisely where modern remote sensing has pinpointed the anomaly. What was once dismissed has been thrust into the light of scientific scrutiny. Modern photogrammetric analysis reveals the proportions of Salt's mound match those of the known Sphinx to within a margin of 3%, a statistical improbability for a natural formation. Even simulated erosion models suggest the weathering on this buried form is consistent with sculpted, not natural, limestone. Could Salt and his contemporaries have glimpsed the exposed crown of a second monument before the ever-shifting sands reclaimed it for another 2 centuries? The mystery only deepens when we consider the cause of its disappearance. If a second Sphinx once stood, a mirror to the first, its absence implies a cataclysm, either of nature or of man. Was it toppled by a great earthquake, its remains swallowed by the fractured earth? Or was it deliberately destroyed, an act of iconoclasm so thorough that it erased a monument of equal stature to the Great Sphinx from both the landscape and from memory? The Giza Plateau holds its silence. The answer may lie not in what was built, but in what was unmade. a silent testament to a symmetry violently broken, a cosmic balance shattered, leaving one lonely sentinel to stare out at eternity, forever waiting for its lost companion. The Giza Plateau, a landscape etched into the memory of humanity, is defined by what we can see. Yet the ground beneath our feet tells a different, more ancient story. Geological surveys have revealed a forgotten chapter in this land's history, a time around 2000 BCE when the world was wetter and the Nile was wilder. During the Middle Kingdom, cataclysmic floods periodically surged from the river, an inundation so vast it reached the sacred high ground of the plateau itself. This primordial water carried with it a slow, inexorable tide of sediment. We can now imagine a scenario where the lower enclosure of the Sphinx was engulfed, its sacred precincts choked by tons of silt, burying nearby structures in a deep, muddy grave. Over the ensuing centuries, the wind finished the work the water began. Shifting dunes, the patient architects of the desert wove a shroud of sand, entombing whatever lay below. If a monument was indeed lost to this patient assault of nature, its rediscovery marks not just an archaeological revelation, but the resurrection of a ghost. More tantalizing, however, is the possibility that this was no accident of geology. Some Egyptologists now suspect a deliberate concealment, a secret buried by human hands. The evidence is cryptic, found within the royal chronicles from the reign of Amenhotep II. These records speak with reverence of a great restoration project, of breathing new life into the sacred lion of the West. But in this careful accounting, there is a deafening silence. No mention is made of a counterpart, an Eastern guardian. Could it be that ancient priests, in an act of profound theological consequence, intentionally buried the second guardian? Perhaps it was a casualty of a religious revolution, a time when the ascendant cult of Ra-Ah, the sun god, eclipsed older, perhaps darker deities. To erase a god from the landscape is to erase it from memory, and what better way to do so than to return its effigy to the earth from which it was carved? Each new piece of this puzzle only deepens the enigma. Who ordered the construction of a second Sphinx? Was it Khafre, the pharaoh credited with the first, seeking to create a perfect, monumental symmetry? Or does it point to an even earlier ruler, a forgotten sovereign whose legacy was deliberately absorbed by the titans of the Fourth Dynasty? And if two sphinxes once stood together, flanking the path to the pyramids, what cosmic secret were they meant to guard? What celestial alignment did they track in the heavens? For now, the desert holds its counsel. The Great Sphinx continues its silent vigil, gazing eastward, as it has for 4,500 years. Its expression remains unreadable, a mask of serene indifference that perhaps conceals an impossible knowledge. But just beyond its shadow, where the tourists do not tread, a digital spectre glows beneath the sand. LIDAR images, peeling back the layers of the earth, reveal an echo of stone, a phantom lion waiting for its return to the light. In the year 2025, a new phase of inquiry is set to begin. Archaeologists are preparing to deploy hyperspectral imaging, a technology capable of reading the chemical memory of the Earth. It can detect the faint traces of ancient pigments and the subtle signature of moisture trapped deep within carved limestone, distinguishing worked stone from natural bedrock. If these results confirm a massive carved monument, it will change everything we thought we knew about Giza's sacred landscape. The discovery would not merely add another wonder to the world, it would shatter the very foundation of the accepted timeline. It forces us to confront a radical idea, that the structures of ancient Egypt are far older than conventional archaeology has led us to believe. The established narrative that this magnificent culture spawned fully formed in a very specific period begins to fray. It suggests that dynastic Egypt, as we know it, that glorious civilization dating back to 3000 BCE, was not a beginning. It was a legacy, the brilliant echo of an earlier, lost cycle of civilization. The sand, it seems, is not an empty void, but an archive. And as we stand on the edge of this potential revelation, the Great Sphinx watches on, its stone lips sealed. It is a reminder that what we have unearthed is only a fraction of the story, and the greatest truths are not those which have been found, but those which have been forgotten. Through the lens of geology, the story written on the Giza plateau is not the one we have been told. The weathering that scars the Great Sphinx is not the signature of desert winds and scouring sand. The evidence lies etched into the stone itself. While the monument's core body has been heavily repaired over millennia, obscuring its earliest history, the key is found in the sheer rock walls of its enclosure. This deep trench preserves a crucial, unadulterated record. One must remember, the Sphinx was not built, but liberated. It began as a single outcrop of limestone, its head the only feature above the ancient ground. To give it a body, its creators carved downwards, excavating millions of cubic feet of rock to free the colossal form from its subterranean prison. These enclosure walls, born at the same moment as the Sphinx, tell a different story of erosion. They speak of a time and a climate profoundly different from our own, holding a silent geological memory that challenges the very timeline of this ancient wonder.